Well, what is up, down, and sideways? You beautiful people. We are back on League Unlock. Eric and Mark with you guys for everybody's favorite time of the week. Global Power Rankings, 20-1, the top 20 teams in the world right now. And finally, the LPL are actually playing games, which makes it, easier to do these. A lot of the guys haven't played a game yet in, 2 weeks, but at least they're back.
Hey, the LPL is such an influence around the world, and especially talking about the best teams in the world, having them back in action, moving up and down the leaderboard. That is the type of action that people want for the global power rankings, and that's what you're going to get. And oh boy, I got to say, I feel a little uncomfortable about the power rankings towards the very bottom because we got a new challenger appearing, and it is your boys, the Imports, TSM.
That's right. I didn't think it would happen. I didn't think it would happen in spring. I didn't think it would happen in 2021, but we're living in a world where Team Solo Mid is on the list. They're coming in at not even just 20. We gave them number 19 because BLG had a rough series. So they're still hanging on to the list at number 20. But yes, TSM, your boys and ours, coming in at number 19. Didn't think it would happen, Mark.
I didn't think it would happen. The community didn't think it would happen. I'd be probably betting some of the players might be questioning.
But it's hard to argue now
the
after the past 2 weeks.
You cannot argue with the results, right? And not only are the results actual dubs in the win column, right? But you're talking about clean performances, clean rotations around the map, and for the most part, better to good drafting from this TSM squad. All reasons to feel positive about them moving into this territory of a top 20 team in the world. I'm uncomfortable because we all know how well we've actually seen the first week from TSM, and we know some of these players, and how volatile and how much their play level can change week to week. That's where you start to have some of these questions and doubts for this TSM roster. I'd love to see more, we need just more games, more results of them putting together clean performances, good victories to feel more confident. But I don't know if I ever can feel confident in this TSM organization.
No, and until they show legitimate consistency, and if they might never get back to that 2016-2017 era of dominance. But yeah, this is very temporary. They got to continue doing this to stay on this list. They could easily go 1-2, 0-3 next week, and you're out of the top 20. You're out of the top 30, man. That's how quickly it can happen in this season. But for now, hey, the boys in at number 19. Shoutouts to them. They're a spot behind T1, who did climb a little, and you always got to talk about the team performance as well as the teams around them in the rankings. And we had a couple teams like V5 getting out of the top 20, BLG, these middle to bottom tier LPL teams. I mean, that's a no-brainer that T1 should be ahead of them all season long, and they're slowly starting to get there.
We're slowly starting to see the level of form and production from T1 that is at this level, that is acceptable for them, and at the very least, as we talk and moving forward, very acceptable in as far as their performances towards the top of the table in the LCK. Yes, not able to get away with a victory in the DRX series in the head-to-head, but as you can see in this list, we feel pretty confident about DRX and the form that they've shown as well. So not going to knock you too much for that, but absolutely, you saw in the series later on, the form that they have and that they're showing does leave you feeling positive for the future, right? It makes you think about the next week's matches, and that T1 is going to have another level of play, that they're going to get to a better level as well. That's the feeling right now.
Just find a roster that works. That's
exactly. They need to ride the momentum of finding that roster that fits and clicks. Hey, got Owner in the lineup starting with them. You got Zeus in the top side. Slot and Faker, and we're feeling solid.
The kids are all right. More than all right. They're the future, and they're the recipe for success for this team. Then we got a couple of EU squads. Yes, TSM makes their debut at 19. Mad Lions also making a debut, a few spots higher at 16. They're just ahead of Fnatic because of that head-to-head. We already talked about it a bit on the LEC power rankings, but we're starting to really see this Mad Lions play to the level that we expected in the offseason with, okay, you can talk about the Elyoya shadow change not necessarily being an upgrade, but at least on the top side it should have been an upgrade with Armut, and finally starting to see it with Mad Lions. And for Fnatic, they moved down a couple of spots. The bad week isn't enough to drop them out of the top 20 entirely.
No, this is one of those situations where you look at this week and if Fnatic underperforms, absolutely that's going to be a pretty quick ticket outside of the top 20. But the expectation is that they do bounce back. They do find their form. They do find a way to justify this type of spot holding on. Mad Lions is a different story because their play this past week has really pushed them into this top 20. And the big point for me is, as we said before, we really haven't seen that level of play that we should be able to expect from someone like Humanoid, and as well, even from Carzzy and Kaiser in the bot lane. Hasn't been necessarily the positive points that you would expect for a Mad Lions squad. This week, the positive momentum really is from that top side and from the jungle. And I really want to focus on Eloya, what he has been able to do for this Mad Lions team and the difference that he has provided. And the champions now that we're starting to see come through again. Hey,
playing some Kane, that's confidence, baby.
Exactly. And that's not only confidence personally to play that, that's confidence from the team to let you slot in and put that on the stage. You like what you're seeing from the Mad Lions, getting a thumbs up from me.
Hopefully it's not just a 1 week or 2 week case. I want to see them here week in and week out. That's where they should be. That's where we expected them to be. Ahead of them, you got Rare Adam, who struggled against ThunderTalk this week in a 3-game set. We know ThunderTalk's not that great, but Rare Adam's still on the list. They slide a spot. DRX is the team you alluded to, who climbs up big this week, 4 spots all the way to 14, the highest they've been, I'm pretty sure. The rookies now 7-3 alongside Piosic, and they don't have the 2-0 clean wins that Gen G has. It's a lot of 3-game sets that we're seeing with them, but I mean they're competing for half a game against Damwon. They're beating T1. They're beating teams that were supposed to be much better than them in the offseason, and 7-3. They're legit, man. That's it.
We're outside of the territory where you can just talk about DRX and being like, wow, this is, good for them. They're beating our expectations. We thought that they'd be maybe, a little bit more developmental. No. This is now about understanding that DRX is one of these teams that is pushing for that next level in the LCK, that it just, it is in those cup, not a Damwon tier, not a Gen G tier, but now they're starting to enter into that own level of themselves.
The gray area that is Hanwha Life and DRX. And yes, this week, you kind of see we dropped Hanwha a couple of spots and DRX climbs. So they're neck and neck now. I think before you were somewhat, maybe not confident, but Hanwha was definitely better. And now you look, the gap is very close for that third team in the LCK. And next week, it absolutely flip-flop either way.
Right, and especially with DRX and what the capabilities they've shown us, it's not really, it's not only just about them getting closer to stacking up really with a squad like Hanwha Life and where we're feeling them towards the upper level of the LCK, but it's about looking at them as a playoff organization, a playoff team that's going to step into a best of series in these playoffs. And as you said, their series have gone to the full 3 games. They've been able to take away matches from almost everybody in the LCK. The form that they've shown, the young guns on the squad have developed and rounded into better players themselves this split. These are the type of things back up for DRX as positive momentum, and they are absolutely providing reasons to feel excited about them matching up against anybody in the LCK in a playoff series.
People are mostly excited about Cloud9 as well, as much as the meme that Fudge has been getting for a lot of the split. We got to see Perks on the Tristana playing 80 carries, not finally, but really smurfing in some of these matches. And yeah, they lost to Team Liquid. That wasn't even enough to really bring them down a peg because, as we talked about before, a lot of it was that bot lane dive and the fact that they were able to still fight, not get back in that game, but still be competitive with such a big gold deficit, still clearly looking like the best team in it.
Yeah, and actually talking about it, of course, not as much as just getting a victory. You give them props for it, but I absolutely want to give props to Cloud9 and to that roster for showing some of the identity of G2, right? This past weekend and what they had in their fight against Team Liquid and being behind and trying to take objectives around the map, saying, hey, you're going to put pressure here, well, we're going to go over here and find something else. So I like that, and I want to give them credit for it in the sense that this is absolutely something that I think came with Perks, right? Came with his personality, his mindset, his approach to the game. And I think that having that rub off on the rest of Cloud9 and being something that they've recognized and be able to put into practice right away is a good step.
It's a loss that not only can you learn from, but it's not necessarily a concerning loss where you see all these gaping issues that you have. So about as good a loss as you can have within the restraints and confines of the LCS. Now we go into the top 10 where it's a story of that middle tier of the LPL. They're coming, Mark, and it's getting scary. They're gearing up. They're revving up for playoffs, and it's only going to get more insane over in China. We start with World Elite, who were top 5 for the first few weeks and then slowly started sliding, had a 3-game losing streak. Now they've won 2 in a row in their return after the Lunar New Year, and they're 7-3, so the record isn't as good as some of the teams ahead of them, but remember, they were really on a downward trajectory. The biggest win, of course, was against FPX, and you have the little asterisks with this whole bow situation, but let's not take away from World Elite. They looked good in that series.
Right. It still is important to recognize who is on the other side that you're going up against in a series like that. And with FPX, it absolutely is still more than enough firepower that it results in giving some credit over to the WE squad. And as you said, a much needed victory, really, not only as far as the quality of the opponent, but just the quality of your performance in the match was absolutely necessary to turn things around, feel better about the momentum for WE. That's what we want to be seeing. But as you said, this middle tier of kind of the top 10 section of our power rankings, this should strike fear in every region, seeing the LPL powers right here, because absolutely, you know that this is a ticking time bomb waiting to blow up your Worlds group as a number 3 seed or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you see a team like World Elite who had such a great start and you were automatically talking about them. And then you have a pair of squads like JDG and Top Esports who had rough starts, really slow out of the gate. And now they're starting to come online. You had Top Esports, we'll start with them, 2-0ing LNG. That series was not close. LNG started 4-1, and now they've lost 3 series in a row. And for TES, I mean, we just need more games. You look at the game score. World Elite has played 3 more series than them. What is this scheduling?
The thing that is actually the only real thing that hurts Top Esports is just the fact that, okay, you had a couple slip-ups, you have bad performances at the very beginning of the year, and you need to now play catch-up with teams that haven't had any slip-ups in the LPL, cough, EDG. But what you're thinking of, in this sense of not only is, okay, you got to catch up to them, but oh boy, the performance needs to be there as well. And these squads, they've absolutely stepped up their performance to that next level. Want to be talking about JDG. I think they are specifically a team to watch. I think their form is red hot, what they've got going for them. And someone especially like Yagao is popping off and getting these big time carry performances coming through. You love to see it.
Yeah, back-to-back great Azir games he had against Angel and Suning in their last matchup. Both JDG and Top Esports look to be coming online. And yeah, not even just Worlds groups, but within the LPL, this, come on, we've talked about it before, as a 4, 5, or 6 seed is looking like where one of these teams are going to end up, or both of them, which is terrifying for any of these teams who are getting buys. Then we've got RNG ahead of those 2 squads, and you can talk about similar to Top Esports. It's a little bit unfair because it's just been so long. At least TES, JDG, and World Elite have all played since the break was over for the LPL. RNG play on Thursday against Rogue Warriors. It just feels like so long since we've seen RNG on the Rift.
And that really sucks to have a situation where you can have a team kind of slip up because of just not playing, just the scheduling affecting them. That being said, I want to be calm because absolutely, with what we've seen from RNG and their performance of play, I don't think that this is the trend that will continue, right? I don't think they're going to just come out of the break and have a bad performance and, oh, well, we got to slot RNG back even more. I think they're going to come out of the break already, all guns firing, and we're going to be looking to make RNG even higher in the list.
Yeah, and like I said, they start against Rogue Warriors, ease back into things, then they get FPX, their second match later this week. So once we have those games to go under, we might be climbing them back in the top 5 or at least hovering on that outside bubble because you got to acknowledge what Rogue is doing as well. They're up a spot. I know it was an easy schedule for the Misfits and Vitality. They got business done. I mean, and you've heard the biggest thing for me with Rogue, and you kind of heard Freddie talking about it in an interview, their head coach, that they're trying to experiment more in draft in the spring split, which is something we've been calling for the past full year. Go outside of the Azirs for Larson. Let's see some different comps out of them, and now's the perfect time to do it.
Absolutely, it's the perfect situation with the LEC and some of these teams that are trying to push right for that top spot that you've established yourself in with G2. It is that type of time to test yourself and test against the rest of the region. Now, the problem really I have here is you're going to have the international community looking at this spot, and I think a lot of international people are going to be questioning Rogue being here. From just having them say, "Oh, well, I know G2, and yeah, okay, G2, I can understand. I've seen some of their matches and blah blah blah," and then they don't really watch obviously the rest of the LEC week in week out, and they miss out on exactly the level of talent and elite level of play that Rogue has become as an organization and squad. And I think that you're really missing.
They're cleaner than G2.
Out. Absolutely, people really are missing out to have that type of look on this Rogue squad. And I am just so hungry to get some international competition for this Rogue team, because that's really going to be the only thing that I think is finally going to shut some people up about doubting this Rogue squad, doubting players like Larson, is going to be them finally getting a chance to put up some results internationally. Hey, last year at Worlds, that group, that was not exactly the place that I'm talking about putting up results. That's not fair.
That's about as doom and gloom as it could get in a group stage. But they're not better than G2, but they're cleaner. When you look at their wins, it's never really in doubt. They don't have the pizzazz and the chaos that G2 has. But in terms of, movements around the map and everything,
there's no Senna Scion, but it's okay.
They're in at number 6, and they deserve to be this high on the rankings. Now we get to the top 5, and obviously, if we're just talking about Rogue being in at number 6, well, you probably got G2 a little bit higher. Yes, it is finally the week that we put them in that top 5, and it's, G2 and Gen G are just forever linked because of how Worlds 2020 ended with the 3-0 in G2's favor. And I think it was just getting more games under G2's belt, and now we're starting to see that, yes, even though they've dropped a couple of games, some games are messy. Obviously, this team was going to be an absolute powerhouse in Europe, and now we're just seeing more and more and enough games to kind of put them in this spot because, as we talked about within the LCK, Gen G's done nothing wrong.
Yeah, this isn't really about Gen G. This is about the positives for G2 and what they've been able to do. And I think one of the things that they don't get enough credit for in a situation where you're talking about head-to-head, trying to rank G2 ahead of a Gen G ahead of a G2 type of situation, I don't think the coaching staff for G2 is getting enough credit. I think Grabs and the rest have absolutely set themselves apart from a lot of coaching staffs around the world in their level of commitment and attention to detail. And that was something that played a big part in how they were able to prepare and dismantle Gen G last year at Worlds. And so that is something absolutely I think continues when you're trying to evaluate these squads and why you'd have a G2 ahead of a Gen G. But the next factor for me is so you got Grabs and the coaching staff, and they're preparing and everything, doing their homework properly. But then what do you do when you got players like Reckless and Mickey in the bottom lane that are creative enough to go, oh, wait, the Kench is banned. Hey, Reckless, I got this thing called a Scion that we can put in with the Senna. Hey, it is next level with G2 eSports.
And they're learning about, how to play that bot lane pairing throughout the game. Oh, hey, let me throw this minion and you throw your Senna. Oh, wow, that works pretty well. Cool. So, yeah, G2, absolute menace in EU, as we would have expected. The top 3 on this list is where things got spicy this week. And obviously, the domino that set it all off is 1, FPX losing to World Elite in 2-0 fashion, and 2, just the questions around the jungle position now for them, with Bo suspended indefinitely. Now we've got, yes, Tien started against World Elite, and now they've promoted Beishuan, who's from their academy squad. But this isn't Bo. This isn't the guy who's been annihilating the LDL for a full year. He's only been with the squad for, this split. So 2 months, basically. So this isn't the big savior. So really, it's a question mark. Can FPX stay in the top 3 without Bo?
And the way that it was worded, right? The situation about having Beichan come in for the squad and joining Tien with the main team, it sounded like we might get only one more game out of someone like Tien, and he might go back to not playing with the squad. So this is certainly going to be a level of unpredictability and instability for this FPX squad. And these are the type of things that you could have said about having Bo jump into the lineup, sure. but it was obviously to a much, much lesser degree when you're talking, again, because of the level of play that Bo had shown throughout the earlier parts of his career and understanding that this was simply the next step. This was something that was coming for a while.
Hyped up and groomed to start for FPX.
Exactly. This is very different type of replacement situation for FPX. And as you said already, with the loss to WE, you had to drop him down in this situation. And moving forward, there's certainly it's question mark after question mark in that regard. And that's not meant to be about anything away from players like LWX doing Nuggery, what they've been able to do in the top side, how well they've all played this year. That's nothing about them and what our expectations are for them. It's just how crucial the jungle role is and how properly playing it with it is at the very top of the LPL.
But don't worry, LPL fans, because FPX dropping, yes, Damwon gets a boost, and that means that finally they have ascended. EDG, Edward Gaming, coming in at number 1 on the global power rankings this week. They got back on the Rift, got business done against BLG. Of course it was a 2-0 now. 8-0 on the season, only 2 game losses to their name. Viper is tied for the league lead in Man of the Match awards or MVPs. Got a pentakill on the Samira. Flandre almost got a pentakill on the Gangplank. EDG looks like the best team in the world right now.
And I know that he's gotten some praise, some credit for it, but I want to make sure that Flandre is getting absolutely some credit for what is going on with this EDG squad, because you better believe that, yes, Viper has been fantastic coming over to the LPL, pumping out the damage. Yes, the rest of EDG has found ways to play extremely well. But we gotta give credit to the man in the top side. Flandre has been one of the best in the LPL for years, and we've just been waiting for the squad to finally catch up. Well, the squad was never catching up, so he had to leave. And my man, he's got himself a perfect home with EDG, and they are feeling perfectly at home as our number 1 squad in the power rankings.
And I know everyone, ourselves included, the FPX Damwon dream matchup at MSI, Nuggery and Khan versus their former squads. I'll take EDG versus Damwon at MSI. I'm perfectly happy with Viper coming back and styling on the LCK.
Well, of course, the Khan Nuggery storyline is just so... how could you not want something like that to get you to watch and be hyped for it? But if you're talking about just raw gameplay, firepower, EDG Damwon is the one that you guys want to be having. EDG, I promise you guys, is that absolute dominant power in the LPL. They've continued it through. They've been looking for the opportunities for someone to have a slip up, whatever, at the very top, or a head-to-head matchup and take them down. Unfortunately, we didn't get to that head-to-head. It was someone else having something happen to them, but I believe that EDG are going to hold on to this top spot for a while.
Yeah, 16-2 overall, as I mentioned. Friday, they match up against IG. That has written all over it that IG has an insane ceiling performance and does hand EDG their first loss of the series, or it's just another 2-0 in the way of EDG. Could go either way.
I just cursed Flandre to get stomped by the Shy.
Yeah,
that's how it's going to go.
Talk him up, then the Shy. Back-to-back Vayne
blame
games.
Me, guys. Blame me. It's
Back-to-back Vayne games for him. But that is all the time today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys as always. Thanks for hanging. We'll catch you guys and gals on the Flippity Flip.